University. Listening to you is a blessing, sir. We extend our heartiest welcome to you, and we are excitedly looking forward to learning from you today. At the outset, I request our principal ma'am, Professor Anita Kaushal, to please say a few words. Ma'am Principal, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. It is my proud privilege to welcome Professor S.L. Sharma, an erudite academician who, apart from his colossal academic contributions, is well known for his articulation of ideas on various social issues. Professor S.L. Sharma has also held key positions in various institutions at national and international level. I also welcome all our guests, faculty members, and students to today's expert talk on the theme Changing Relationships Between Individual and Society. The study of relation between individual and society forms the crux of the discipline of sociology, and sociologists all over have been in debate over the relative importance of the two. And most of them agree that relation is mutual and symbiotic. Man is a social being, and unlike other living organisms, it is pertinent for man to live in social groups and communities. Society, however, is not a mere collection of individuals, but it is a network of social relations and social structures. It acts both as an agency of socialization and social control for the individual. We all know that man depends on society for fulfillment of various biological, economic, familial, political, and social needs. And the individuals become social only through learning culture of the society and living under the control of various social institutions. Man and society are interdependent on each other. Individuals play an important role in the continuation of social structure by following the norms and roles assigned to them as per their societal positions, and also contribute to this pre-existing societal force by adding new values and behavior patterns. Thus, a unique, dynamic, constantly evolving relationship exists between the society and the individual. On this happy occasion, I congratulate the Post Graduate Department of Sociology of PGGCG Sector 11 Chandigarh for organizing this expert talk to understand the cause, patterns, and consequences of changing relationships between individual and society. I'm sure that all of us will gain a lot from the wisdom and experiences of our learned speaker, Professor Sharma, today. Not taking much of your time, I once again welcome Professor S.L. Sharma to address us on this expert topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for your kind words and always being with us. May I now request Ma'am Monica Sitka, our department HOD, to formally welcome everyone.
Thank you so much, ma'am, for your kind words. A very good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of my fellow colleagues from the Postgraduate Department of Sociology, PGGCG 11 Chandigarh, I extend a very warm and gracious welcome to all of you. We are highly privileged and delighted to have with us today Professor S.L. Sharma, an eminent sociologist, an accomplished academician, and a researcher par excellence. Presently, Sir is serving as Director Research, Institute for Development and Communication, Chandigarh. Professor Sharma is head former head, Department of Sociology, and former Dean, Faculty of Arts at Panjab University, Chandigarh. Sir has authored about 8 books and published 130 research papers on socio-cultural dimensions of development, including modernization, globalization, social issues of contemporary India, higher education, and study of Indian diaspora. Widely traveled, he has lectured at various universities not just in India but also abroad. He has held several international assignments, including that of Commonwealth expert and advisor in sociology at Jamaica in the 1980s. Apart from holding several professional positions of distinction, Sir has been appointed as the President of the Northwest Indian Sociological Association, Vice President of the Indian Social Science Association, President of the Commonwealth Council for Educational Administration and Research in Panjab and Chandigarh. Having received several awards for his contribution to the field, Sir is also the recipient of Professor D.P. Mukherjee Fellowship Award for Senior Social Scientists. More recently, the Indian Social Science Association conferred upon him the Honorary Senior Fellowship. Today's lecture is not just of academic importance, but is very special to me. I take this opportunity to share that respected Sir was my teacher about 3 decades ago at the university, and his lectures still echo in my ears. His conceptual clarity, articulate style of teaching, patience, kind nature, and above all, his lifetime dedication to the subject is unmatched and rare to find. It is hard to put in words exactly how much of an impact a teacher can have on the lives of his students. I consider myself really fortunate to have been taught by you, sir. I am extremely thankful, respected sir, for having spared your valuable time to be with us today to share your rich experience and words of wisdom, which I am sure will enlighten both the faculty and the students alike. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Over to you, sir.
Okay. First of all, I am really delighted to find this opportunity. Are you able to hear me? Are you able to hear me? Hello?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you very much, Dr. Monica and Professor Anita Kaushik, the principal of the college, and the senior student, for your kind words that you have showered on me. I'm indeed delighted to find this opportunity to share some of my reflections about the relationship between Indian society, particularly focusing on the issues that are there in the relationship between the two. For providing this opportunity, I am indeed grateful to Monica and of course Professor Kaushik and other colleagues of the Department of Sociology. Indeed, I can do no better than to express my appreciation for this opportunity in an Urdu couplet or through an Urdu couplet. एक शेर आपकी सेवा में हाजिर है। मशहूर होने की ख्वाहिश नहीं मुझे, मशहूर होने की ख्वाहिश नहीं हमें, आप हमें पहचानते हैं बस इतना ही काफी है. Therefore, thank you for the honor that you have conferred on me. I really deeply appreciate that. Now, coming to the theme of the lecture, as Principal Kaushik has rightly highlighted, the question of relationship between individual and society is the one which not only touches the life of each one of us in a direct way, but is also of critical importance for our times. I look at sociology as social diagnosis of our times, and therefore it is important for us to understand as to how the relationship between individual and society has changed over the years and what is it like now. Now, in order to do so, I set for myself 3 tasks to accomplish in this session. First of all, I would like to share my digest of the relationship between individual and society in sociological theory or sociological enterprise. Second, I would like to share with you my own viewpoint about the relationship between individual and society. And third, the critical issues that seem to be still unresolved in the relationship between individual and society. Let's begin with the first. As has rightly been pointed out by both Monica and Principal Kaushik, this is the central concern of sociology, the relationship between individual and society. As a matter of fact, it is so central that the entire sociological enterprise may in one way be looked at as grappling with this issue. There have developed 3 significant and notable perspectives on the question, depending on the various schools of theory, sociological theory. These 3 may be called, in simple words, collectivist, individualist, and integralist. Collectivist theorists, beginning with Emile Durkheim and coming up to Marx and even beyond Marx to present times, the collectivist theorists look at the relationship between individual and society from the point of view of the collectivity. That is, they view sociology as a study of social structure, social system, social order, social institutions. And therefore, the manner in which they look at the relationship between individual and society is that it is society which takes primacy over the individual as far as sociology is concerned. Now, Emile Durkheim, as I'm sure most of you already know, views society as not only independent of the individual, but also a force that coerces the individual to act in the ways in which it wants them to act. You know it, that exteriority and constraint, these are the 2 characteristics of social fact, which is what is social system for Emile Durkheim. Now, he maintains that society is out of the individual. It comes into the life of the individual in so many ways, through customs, through institutions, through, in the Indian context, organizations like caste, of course, family, everywhere, through all kinds of organizations in which it manifests itself. And therefore, it enters into individual's life from outside. And not only it is independent of individual, but also it impinges on the individual. It regulates the conduct of the individual. It constrains the individual to act in defined ways. Now, this is Durkheimian position. And by and large, the well-known schools of sociology, the first structural functionalist school, the Marxist, structural Marxist school, and also in some ways even the social action Parsonian school, all of them emphasize the importance of social structure as a central concern of sociology, implying thereby that for sociology, for sociological analysis, conceptually, society and individual are 2 distinct entities, and that society is more important than the individual. Now, this is one position. This is what I call collectivist position. There is another position, which for want of better terms may be called individualist position. The other schools of sociological theory, such as symbolic interactionists, earlier beginning with Homans and then later Mead and Blumer and so many more, the symbolic interactionists, also the ethnomethodologists like Goffman, furthermore the phenomenologists like Alfred Schutz. All of them seek to bring the man back in sociological analysis. As a matter of fact, it all began with Weber primarily. If you study Weber a little carefully, you come across statements like the one which really tell you how much this perspective has been important for Weber. Weber says, my only task in sociology is to bring the individual back in sociological analysis. That's Weber. He writes it precisely in these words. And now what it implies is that he says that sociology is not a study of just social structures, it's also a study of social action. The agents of this action, who are the individuals, and therefore, rather than approaching sociological enterprise from the standpoint or from the viewpoint of the social structure or the society, Weber begins looking at sociological enterprise through the prism of the individual, that or from the viewpoint of the individual. Now, he says that society can not exist without the individual. Society is not exterior to individual as Durkheim postulated. He really dismisses Durkheimian position and maintains that society is internalized in the individual. It's not outside the individual, it is inside the individual. And beginning with Weber, then symbolic interactionists, as I said earlier, and phenomenologists, and so many other theorists have highly emphatically argued that individual is of great concern for sociological analysis, individual in society. Now, the integralist school, the term integral that I have used is extremely important. Integral is that which is mutually constitutive. You cannot think of the one without the other. Integralist school says that this debate is problematic. It is questionable. They argue that the opposition or the separation, the differentiation between individual and society, the categorization of individual and society is a false categorization, that it is a false opposition. And as a matter of fact, number of highly celebrated social thinkers today, they are holding this viewpoint that the relationship between the two, even conceptually, forget about the other aspect, the domination aspect, even conceptually, the relationship between the two is that of mutually constitutive character. That is, you can't think of one without the other. It is the highly celebrated thinkers who maintain this position are Giddens, Anthony Giddens. Giddens, in his theory of structuration, speaks of structure and agency, these two categories. Agency standing for individual, structure standing for society. And he says that the structure and agency are merged into each other. They are not two separate categories. In fact, Giddens goes so far as to contend that it is an absurd opposition and it is an absurd separation. This is the term that Giddens uses, absurd. It's an absurd opposition between individual society, which he says has moved him to enter into sociology in order to overcome this opposition and maintain that society and individual are merged into each other. They are mutually constitutive. They are integral to each other. It's not only Giddens. Habermas also takes this position. In fact, a number of, more recently, Bourdieu, the French sociologist who is now internationally highly celebrated, they use different terms, that's a different matter. For Giddens, it is structure and agency, structure for society, agency for individual. For Bourdieu, it is habitus and field, habitus for the individual and field for the society. So they may be using, similarly, Ritzer uses the term macro, micro, macro for society, micro for individual. But all of them are holding a position that conceptually Durkheim was not right in maintaining that society is outside the individual, and that Weber was not right also in maintaining that individual alone is important for society, that society cannot be formed. Of course, that is true that society cannot be formed without individuals, but society is not just a collectivity of individuals, it's something more than that. And therefore, they also reject this position. And the opposition that several thinkers have postulated or posited in the relationship between individual and society is rejected by the contemporary celebrated sociologists. So this is the picture that we have about the relationship between individual and society in sociological theory. Let me tell you that now a few observations on this sociological perspective on the relationship between individual and society. My own submission is that, number one, even as much attention has been paid to the analysis of relationship between individual and society in sociology, however, not as much as is required. This is the way I look at it. When I look at sociological enterprise, whatever they position in respect of the analysis of conceptual analysis of relationship between individual and society, I find almost the works of all sociologists tilted more to the side of the study of social system, social structure, social institutions, than the relationship between individual and society. Now, that's one observation that I would like, you will see it as we proceed, how, if you look at the sociology, the manner in which it distinguishes itself from psychology or from other disciplines for that matter is that sociology, the central category of analysis for sociology, the basic unit of analysis for sociology, social structure, social systems, social institutions, it doesn't so much maintain that the basic object of sociological study is the relationship between individual and society. No, it doesn't address that. It addresses, if you look at the whole Marxian analysis, what is it that is important for Marx? It is capitalism. Society comes in the life of the individual through capitalism as an economic system and as a socio-cultural system along with that. Now, therefore, whether you take the contributions, including Weber, who in theory maintains that it is individual who is of primary importance for society, but if you look at his contributions, whether it is on religion, relation between Protestantism and capitalism, or on bureaucracy, or any contribution that you look at, he is dealing with the social, the collective, the structural, not so much with the individual. My submission is that it's a pity that the question of relationship between individual and society, which is at one level, at the conceptual level, occupied the attention of sociologists a great deal. But when it comes to the actual works of or contributions of these scholars, for most part, they have been focused on society and its impact on individual structure and its bearing on the agency. Now, having made this observation, I could, for example, say, to illustrate it or elaborate it a little more, how the social and the collective takes priority or precedence in the analysis of sociologists over the individual is simple. look at it this way. Capitalism, for example, Marx studies capitalism. What does he do? He tries to see how the economic structure influences the social structure or the cultural structure. He doesn't deal with the impact of this structure on the individual. He's dealing with the impact of one social fact on another social fact, not of the impact of one social fact on the individual as such. So you may take any work and you will find that most of these works have been focused on the interrelations between institutions, between various facets of social structure itself, rather than between social structure and the individual. That is one reason why I thought I should like to focus on it. Now, what I propose to do in the second part, this is about the first. So my observation is that sociology has been largely preoccupied with the study of social structure to the relative neglect of the role of the individual, even as in theory it has been postulated that individual is important for society by the symbolic intellectualists, by the phenomenologists, and also by the integralists. Now, let us, I would like to make a little contribution, moving away from this conceptual jargon and this technical jargon to really the empirical and the practical situation. One important observation that you find running through sociological analysis is that social structure prevails upon individual, that society is there to dominate over the individual. The whole question of domination of individual by society. This you find thoroughly in sociological analysis, whether it is Weber or Marx or Durkheim or the contemporary integralists also, even about Giddens, I can say that with some measure of surety. Even about Bourdieu, I would like to say that they are, of course, talking of integration of the two, yet at the same time, their works are tilted more in favor of the study of structure and institutions and interlinkages between the various institutions of society. Now, what has been missed out is the processual aspect of relationship between individual and society. I would therefore like to focus now on this whole question about the domination of society or social structure over the agency or the individual. The objective over the subjective, if you like, the domination of the objective over the subjective. Society is an objective reality, individual internalizes society, therefore society becomes an individual, society through individual becomes a subjective reality. Now let me see, and then there's something about which I have been reflecting, and something which I am sure is going to touch each one of you, and I would urge upon you to reflect on it in your own life world. I'm concerned with the life world here rather than with the conceptual system of sociology. Now, in the life world, we find that, of course, at various stages, society comes into our life, and it manages to regulate our behavior. It seeks to dominate over us. How do we as individuals adapt to the pressures or the constraints or the coercion of society over us? I know Merton did talk about some modes of adaptation. I find them highly inadequate. He talked of the 5 modes of adaptation, of course, on a different axis. The axis was cultural goals and institutional means, acceptance and rejection of the two. On that basis, he spoke of those 5 modes of adaptation. I'm not going into that part. I would like to be more practical and realistic for the present. How do we as individuals adapt to the constraints that society imposes on us? Now, the first is, of course, conformance. Conformance. There are many of us, in fact, most of us do conform to the social norms, the pressures of society, the social constraints. Conformance is well known. The second is deviance. Hello. The second is deviance. Deviance is departure from the norms. And this deviance is largely, as far as conformance is concerned, it is clear that because we internalize through socialization many of the norms of society, we abide by those norms, and therefore there is conformance, or what Merton calls conformity. So that is fine, because society is possible only through or by way of conformity or conformance of the individual to these social norms. Because people abide by social norms, therefore social order perpetuates and persists. Now, so this is one, conformance is clear. Deviance is departure from that. Most of us, I would dare say, I would venture to say that most of us do deviate one time or another from the given norms of society. Deviance is always concealed. It is always accompanied by denial. If we are caught, then we would say, no, I didn't do that, or I'll deny doing that. So deviance is always, the deviance contains denial, that I accept the norm is good, I have been following it, I haven't deviated from it, I didn't steal it, I didn't do that thing which is not approved by society. So deviance is always concealed. That is a second mode of adaptation with social pressure. The third, I would call defense, a kind of rational justification. Defense is rational justification. That is, not only I would deviate, but I would justify that deviance in my eyes. And I don't feel guilty of violating that norm. It's I think I'm putting it to test to all of you, the distinguished members of audience, to tell me in a little later from now, when we have question answer hour. So what we do is forbidden fruits taste better. All of us are, hello? Are you able to hear me?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
It was showing something. All right. So I was saying the third is the defense. That is, I deviate, but I justify the deviance. For example, take simple example. There are some people who would file false TA bills. They are entitled to travel by air. They would travel by train or by their car and or by another mode and ask for air charges. Now they justify it. Of course, they don't feel guilty of doing it for the reason that the bureaucratic system of university is such that if they go by those norms, then they will have to spend out of their pocket for going to another, for visiting any university or a college. There are universities, in fact, most of the universities, they have, so many paisas per kilometer. From the university to the airport or to the railway station, whatever, this is the maximum that will be admissible. Now, actually, the taxis and the mode of conveyances are not available at that price. You end up spending more from your pocket, and still, and therefore you justify that if the whole norm is wrong, the whole system is norm, and therefore, why should I be a victim of this system? Now, this is deviance, concealed, of course, but concealed still. One doesn't feel guilty about doing it. One justifies it. One says, no, I haven't committed any error because the system is rotten. The norms are not correct norms. Okay, so this is what I call defense. Now, conformance, deviance, defense. The fourth, pretense. Many of us, in fact, most of the elites, if not most, at least majority of the elites, I would venture argue that they are hypocrites. They practice hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is a powerful and pervasive mode of adaptation, particularly on the part of the elites, the higher class people, the elites in economy, the elites in polity, the elites in education, the elites in all spheres of social life. What is hypocrisy? Hypocrisy is pretending to be or feigning to be what you are not. There is a hypocrisy presupposes a kind of a disjunction, not only disjunction, but a kind of polar opposition between what you state and what you do. You say one thing and you do another. You hold a brief for the national language, say for example, you hold a brief for Hindi, but you send your own children to an English medium school. Now, this is hypocrisy. Hypocrisy is a kind of opposition between the profession and the practice. That is the reason why it is said that hypocrisy is the tribute that virtue pays to vice, or vice pays to virtue indeed. Hypocrisy is the tribute that vice pays to virtue. Now, what you find, therefore, is a situation because of the pressure of society over the individual, that many individuals take recourse to hypocritical pretense, and the elites do so in particular. There are examples galore of the hypocrisy in all fields of life. Time doesn't permit me to go into the illustrations. Each one of us knows it very well. Now, the next important mode of adaptation is the connivance. Connivance. You connive with others. Take, for example, the case of corruption. What is it you do? The policeman says, I am getting paid only this salary. My seniors expect me to, in a way, serve them in various ways. I don't have the resources, the money with me. My meager salary doesn't let me do that. And therefore, if I'm taking bribe and the system is also allowing me to take bribe, even the pay commission members would say that, oh, these police wallahs, they have so many other sources of earning, so let us keep their salaries as they are. Now, what do you have here? What you have is here is a clear case of connivance for corruption. All institutionalized corruption is a case of connived corruption. And there is corruption, whatever little study I have made of it, I am very clear about it. It's a systemic phenomenon. It is not just an individual aberration. Corruption is inbuilt into the system. It is a system, it is a structure that in many cases compel people to play corrupt. So connivance is another mode of adaptation. If we go further, we find defiance. Defiance is yet another mode of adaptation of the individual with society. You don't conceal your deviance. The difference between deviance and defiance is that in deviance you conceal, you deny. In defiance, you do not conceal it, you openly flout the norm and declare that I'm flouting it. Gandhi's civil disobedience movement was a case of defiance. So many cases. Now the farmers' movement, for example, there is a case of defiance when the 144 is imposed and yet the assembly is taking place. So what you have is defiance. Yet another mode of adaptation is resign. That is, if you find that you cannot defy and that you find it also difficult to conform, in that case, what do? You retreat, you withdraw into your own world, and you either become a drug addict or some depressed person and so on. So there is resign. That is another way resigning to yourself. That is another way of adaptation. And finally, there is also a powerful mode of, for a better word, I would call reconstruction, reformulation, redesigning. Redesign. You come up with a better norm, a better system, a better proposition, that not this, but this will be a better thing. Not the domination by a foreign power, but Swaraj, self-rule is a better proposition. This is redesign. So these are the various ways, and the redesigning is the mode that provides an opportunity for the individual to change society. When it comes to change, there are three kinds of people, and it's important for us to understand. Once again, I think an Urdu couplet will help you, because maybe the discussion has been a little boring for you. Therefore, let me lighten it up. We have very interesting kinds of classification of people here. कुछ लोग हैं, अर्ज है, कुछ लोग हैं जो वक्त से पीछे पिछड़ गए. कुछ लोग हैं जो वक्त से पीछे पिछड़ गए. कुछ लोग हैं जो वक्त के सांचे में ढल गए. कुछ लोग हैं जो वक्त का सांचा बदल गए. Now, that is what is redesigning. That is what is becoming a change maker. That is what is becoming a pace setter. So, this redesigning is a mode of adaptation that provides for change in society by the individual. So, what you have are these modes of adaptation. Now, let me submit that these are illustrative kinds of points. It is not an exhaustive list, but I have just only tried to show how in actual life world, individual adapts to society. And I submit for your consideration that even as it is empirical reality, I have, except for Merton's attempt of 5 modes of adaptation, which are on a different axis, which do not deal with the relationship between individual and society, I don't come across any effort in sociology to deal with the processes that unite individual with society. So this is just by way of an illustration. And this now my viewpoint, therefore, is about the relationship between individual and society. It is not always a question of domination. In fact, I would submit even as domination is an important facet of relationship between society and individual. Society tends to dominate over individual and take individual for granted. Society seeks to take individual for granted. This is an important, but at the same time, the fact of the matter is that society is not merely a constraint or a coercion or a coercive force. It's also an enabling resource. Society is both an enabler and a controller. As it was pointed out, not only through socialization, but through so many other ways, society provides support to the individual to enable him to become whatever he or she is able to become. And therefore, domination apart, and this domination is even more important in the case of gender. Since I am addressing students of girls' college, I think it needs to be understood. As a matter of fact, the women are doubly oppressed by society. Oppression is an important facet of society. Therefore, it is important for us to. Hello?
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Okay. Because my computer shows something different, therefore I get a little uncertain or unsure whether you are. Okay, so the point that I was making was that these are the ways in which individual adapts to society, but at the same time, society is not merely a coercive force, it is also an enabler, and therefore, to me, it seems that it's as important to look at both the sides of relationship between individual and society. The two sides are one, the coercive side, the other is enabler. As far as enabler is concerned, all of us read about it, all of us know a lot about it. Now, having said that, now I come finally to the third part, and that is what are the issues in the relationship, some of the critical issues in the relationship between individual and society. Now, to me, it seems that there are three critical issues. One is that of domination or dominance, and therefore of emancipation from domination. That is one critical issue. The question of freedom. And okay, let me first focus on that before I proceed to the other. See, if we look at even the neo-Marxian analysis or the analysis of society in the tradition of conflict analysis, the relationship between individual and society, what we have is an important fact, and it is that society is viewed by these thinkers, particularly the conflict theorists, and among the conflict theorists, largely by those who are having a neo-Marxian orientation. They argue that capitalism, which is a representative form of society in modern times, particularly, this is a coercive force, and that it tends to dominate. Now, as a matter of fact, it is here that we have also to focus on the changing relationship. You see, if you look at it broadly, we may look at society in two time periods or in two epochs, traditional or past and modern, present. Okay, now in the traditional times, society, the domination of society over the individual was coercive. It was customary and through force. The leaders of, the caste elites or the religious elites or the elites of various other institutions, they would, by various means, coerce you to fall in line, to conform to the norm. I know about caste system. There used to be the system, if you are trying to violate any caste norm in terms of endogamy, marrying within your caste, then you will be blacklisted. by your caste. You will be outcasted. You will be boycotted. So what it shows is a simple thing. That is, in traditional societies, it was brute force. It was the force of custom. It was coercion that was important. Now in modern times, dominance continues. Society tries to dominate individual as it did in earlier times. As much it does so today as much as it did in the past, but it is in a different manner. And the manner is the capitalism is now not coercive so much as it has become manipulative. As a matter of fact, Habermas, first of all, let me tell you how society is being viewed in terms of the modern context. Modern society is regarded as rational society. Okay, the one important difference between traditional society and modern society is that traditional society was customary, whereas modern society is born out of rationality, and it is being regulated by rationality, science, technology, and all other manifestations of reason. Now, the question is society a rational organization? Is society a rational organization? As a matter of fact, number of theorists have argued that, unlike what Weber said, that we are rational and that capitalism is the rational form of organization. Now, many neo-Marxists are now holding a brief for society as irrationality of rationality. Society is being viewed as symbolic of, or as an embodiment of, better still, society is being viewed as an embodiment of irrationality of rationality. Weber, I'm sure postgraduate students of sociology would appreciate it. Weber distinguishes between various kinds of rationalities, but mainly two varieties are important here. There is a formal rationality and there is a substantive rationality. Rationality is calculus between means and end. That is, a rational action is that action which uses the rational means to achieve a given end. This is what we call formal rationality. There is an end given to you, a goal, and there are means available with you. Now, it is your choice of the most rational means which will define your rationality. If you choose the most of rational means to attain that goal, you are a rational person. If you don't, if you choose a less rational goal, a means which will not enable you to reach that goal directly, then you are a rational person. This is formal rationality. So formal rationality is indeed instrumental rationality. You are concerned with the rationality of the means, the instrument. On the other hand, there is a substantive rationality. Substantive rationality is concerned with value. It is concerned with goal. Whether the goal is desirable. It is means comes later. Whether you are following rational means to attain that goal. Now, the three desired goals or desirable goals are freedom, peace, and happiness. Freedom, justice, peace, etc. These are desirable goals. Now, Habermas argues that what kind of rational society are we having today when what we have is injustice galore. What we have is constraint and controls over individual rather than freedom available to the individual. What we have is irrationality of the order in which the few people are amassing majority of the wealth, and masses are left to fend for themselves without any significant or substantial means. So what kind of rationality is this? in fact, time doesn't permit me. I have my own conception of society as a fraud, and some other time I may discuss that in great detail. I also view society as much as a fraud as it is a noble organization. There are both dimensions of society. Anyway, that apart, the point here is that how is capitalism playing games with people here in modern times? As a matter of fact, here it is the Italian scholar, social scientist, Gramsci, political scientist, who coined a term called hegemony. He uses it for the first time, hegemony. There is dominance and there is hegemony. Hegemony is nothing but cultural leadership to pacify the people. Now, in hegemony, you manipulate, you don't coerce, you don't force, you don't compel people to fall in line. You manipulate their minds. You try to, through cultural systems, try to brainwash them to an extent that they begin to see their good in your good, in the capitalist good. Now that is hegemony. So the point is that how society is now controlling individual, not necessarily or not always by coercive means, but as far as the present day capitalism is concerned, through manipulative means, through hegemony. It is not dominance, it is hegemony. That is manipulating you to believe, just as we were manipulated to believe that the English education that comes to us is good for us, good for the country, good for the people. So it's just manipulation of the mind. The point that therefore that I'm making is simple, and it is this, that the relationship between individual and society is changing today from that of domination by force to manipulation by hegemony. That is the kind of change in the relationship that we find over the years. At this point, I may say that why we consider science, scientific advances, and particularly technological advances as problematic. Once again, एक शेर आपके सेवा में है. It's simple. We are told that, and we are being constantly told that we are living in an information society, in a knowledge society, in a rational society, in an advanced society. Our forefathers lived in a primitive society, and we are living in a better society now. And this is what we call development. This is what we call progress. इस अहले तरक्की के अंदाज निराले हैं, ज़हनों में अंधेरे हैं, सड़कों पे उजाले हैं. What we find is that our minds are being manipulated. There is darkness in the mind. Of course, technology has provided us all the means of light, but there is darkness in the mind, and therefore it is important for us to understand that the manner in which a relationship between individual and society is changing today is that from that of coercion to that of manipulation, from dominance to hegemony. Now, it is important for us to raise this issue of freedom, issue of emancipation, issue of liberation from this domination. So the first critical issue today in the relationship between individual and society is how is individual liberated from this manipulative design of capitalism in particular and society in general. Now, that is one issue. The other issue is that of fairness. Fairness means equality. Fairness means justice. Now, whether if you look at in the present context, gender relations, of course, they were certainly hierarchical in the past, and they continue to be largely hierarchical even today, unequal even today. As a matter of fact, the feminists have identified four perspectives on the relationship between men and women. Men and women being treated as individuals. I'm not treating them as categories or as groups, but as individuals. What we find is the men seeking to dominate over the women. Now, there are four facets of the relationship between man and woman. One is that of difference, that the two are different. Of course, they are different. The other, that they're unequal. That is a problematic proposition, that men are superior and women are inferior. The third is that of oppression, not only inequality, but oppression. The man oppresses the woman, compels her to fall in line. That is oppression. And the fourth is structural oppression. The structures that are created are such that they so manipulate the woman that she is not able to see her strategic interests. She is manipulated by means of meeting her day-to-day needs, but the strategic questions of subordination and superordination, they are not addressed by the women. So what you find is that the question of injustice is in the relationship between religion and society. One is freedom, the other is fairness, and the third is fulfillment. What you have today is a lack of fulfillment on the part of the individual. One is feeling empty. One is feeling burnt out, if not empty. One is feeling burnt out. What you find is restlessness all around. What you find is stress all around. So fulfillment is the third dimension. And these three remain critical issues: freedom, fairness, and fulfillment in the relationship between individual and society. I think we have to think of devising a system by means of which it is possible to manage the relationship between individual and society in a manner that the individual finds society more of an enabler and less of a coercer. Thank you very much for the patient hearing.
Thank you so much, sir.
So the house is open for questions. Any questions? Any comments?
Hello.
Yes, questions?
Is Manoj Teotia,
Good
please?
afternoon, sir.
Hello.
Good afternoon, sir. This is
Good
Manoj
afternoon.
from Kirit.
Yeah, Manoj.
It's very refreshing, sir. After a long time, listening you is like a treat. Revisiting the sociology again. In theoretical and other perspective and what is going on. And you rightly, mention so many things, what is going on, whether it is Kisan movement and related to gender issues or a different perspective. So I think the way things are moving, and particularly in post-COVID situation,
Right.
I think it's going to create new challenges in terms of social relationships. Of course, IT was already playing a role, but I think the COVID has further exaggerated the situation. So I don't know how, things are going to, move in particularly in terms of social relations, the way social distancing has become a new norm. Just because of health, but I think it's again going to create new kind of relations in the world, actually in the entire world. So how you look at it, sir? This particularly the issues created by COVID in terms of sociological, context.
Very interesting. I must compliment you, Manoj, for posing a very pertinent and a very relevant to our times, of topical relevance, the issue of topical relevance. COVID is influencing the relationship between individual society in multiple ways. As a matter of fact, even as in its original form, the relationship between individual society is a multifaceted relationship, but a new facet is now added through or by COVID. This facet is number one. Let me take up this. We are now. It is thanks to COVID that we are having the online interaction, right? We would not have had it if there was no COVID. Now, what has it done to our relationship? That is our interaction. What it has done is that it has deprived us of the human face-to-face pleasure of meeting each other, of responding to each other, of interacting and discussing. Let me give a simple example. You rightly invited the members of audience to ask questions or make comments or whatever. I'm sure if it were a physical gathering and a physical face-to-face contact, there would have been some of you raising your hands and would have come out. But thanks to this technological intervention, this mediation brought about by COVID, that we are missing that human flair for interaction. So that is one adverse. Of course, it has brought a positive thing in the sense that we are still able to interact thanks to technology. But at the same time, it is depriving us of that pleasure of interacting in a physical gathering. One. Another, as far as social relations are concerned, it is clear that it has had a mixed kind of impact on social relationships. For instance, on the one hand, it has provided for social distancing, as the term has come to be used now. But at the same time, it has also brought about some kind of special appreciation for our relationships, particularly our bonding. If even as we are using masks and practicing social distance, which is nothing but physical distance, actually it has brought us closer. And a third thing, the most important, it is COVID which has made many of us, if not all of us, to think about the meaning of life, the meaning of social life in the sociological context, if one were to put it. How undependable, how short-lived, how problematic is this whole context of life. Living itself, living for what? The purpose of life, the meaning of life. I think that it has brought to us this question, particularly to those who are thinking type. It has brought this question. You don't know how much time do you have as far as your life is concerned. How would you like to use this time? What would you like to make of your life? So the COVID has had so many implications for man and as also for social relationships, social bondings. I think that should do for the present.
Thank you very much. I'll read one question.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Posed by Vinod Chaudhary. He's in Panjab University, Department of Sociology. Firstly, thanks you for the informative lecture. The question is, do you feel that each individual in the society is trying to get maximum benefit of different kinds using his social or political positions?
Well, that is, you say that as far as whether or not it is a fact is concerned, it depends on your conception or your image of human nature. It all depends on. There are philosophical schools about and psychological schools about human nature. There are various perspectives. There are some who consider man as essentially a selfish being, a kind of utilitarian philosophy that one seeks pleasure and avoids pain. So that's one way of looking at it. There is another way of looking at it that no, man is essentially a social being, and one is that man is the one who is thoughtfully prepared to make sacrifices for having a certain social order. That's another way of looking at it. So the question whether each one of us is trying to take maximum benefit out of the present situation is concerned, I'm not very sure if that is, if I will endorse that. It depends. When I apply it to myself, I apply it to my family members, I apply it to my friends. I don't know if they are trying to work that way, that to take maximum benefit out of the present. I don't know what he means by present situation. What is it that he is referring to when he is referring to present situation? So to me, it seems that the answer to this question will depend on the image of human nature that you have, and also a number of other variables that would work on that image.
So there is another question by Madam Rachana Khanna from Ambala. She says, my question is, in the journey of a change from domination to manipulation, where modern woman stands, has she acquired equality or got free from the domination, or she has attained fulfillment in her relations in general?
It's a very, very critical question, and a very thoughtful question, very intelligent question indeed. You see, as far as modern times are concerned, I would say in some ways, modern woman is definitely in an advantageous position compared to her counterpart in the past. That is, among other things, forget about the material schemes and material goods and material benefits and technological appliances and so on that are available to her. That apart, in terms of revolution of consciousness, I would say there is a sort of revolution of consciousness among the women, which wasn't there earlier. Modern woman is now an aware woman. She is trying to be herself. She is not trying to fit herself in the model of traditional gender relationship of femininity or of subordination, but she is trying to be and become herself, and that is important. That is, she's trying to become an individual. She's from a categorized person as woman. She is trying to become herself. Whatever innate abilities, capabilities, talent she has, she's seeking to realize, achieve it. Of course, there are constraints. Of course, there are roadblocks. Of course, there are problems in our way, but I think to the extent to which modern woman has become aware of the injustice, the exploitation, the discrimination, the oppression that her kind have been subjected to by society, to that extent, she's definitely better off today than her counterpart in the past.
So, sir, you have rightly touched all the aspects between the individual and the society with your couplets. You made it very interesting. You will get the formal thanks from Sukhwant Sidhu, sir. आपके शेर सुन के एक मेरे को भी शेर याद आ गया.
अरे सुनाइए साहब, इरशाद.
हाँ सर, मुर्शिद के लिए. बिना थके बिना रुके वो जो हम आगे बढ़ते गए, अपने हाथों से कामयाबी की इबादत लिखते गए.
वाह वाह, बहुत अच्छे.
सिर्फ रास्ता ही नहीं, वो हौसला भी तेरा ही दिया है.
क्या बात है.
जिससे अनजान रास्तों में हम आगे बढ़ते गए.
वाह वाह वाह, वेरी गुड, गुड.
आपके लिए है. आपने पढ़ाई कराई है, हमें रास्ता भी दिखाया है.
जी
जी सर.
मुकर्रर इरशाद, इसको एक बार फिर से बोलिए.
दोबारा से बोलें सर.
हाँ जी.
बिना थके बिना रुके वो जो हम आगे बढ़ते गए,
बहुत अच्छे.
अपने हाथों से कामयाबी की इबादत लिखते गए.
बहुत अच्छे.
मुर्शिद सिर्फ रास्ता ही नहीं, वो हौसला भी तेरा ही दिया है, जिससे अनजान रास्तों पर हम आगे बढ़ते गए.
बहुत अच्छे, बहुत अच्छे. वाह. अब इसके जवाब में मेरा भी एक सुन लीजिए.
जी सर, वो जवाब के लिए सवाल किया था.
ये असल में पहली बात तो आप लोगों ने जितना कुछ इसमें तकलीफ उठाई, ये कष्ट झेला और ये सब टॉक ऑर्गेनाइज की, और दूसरे जो आपने हमको इज्जत दी, और तीसरे आपके हमारे जितने मेंबर्स ऑफ ऑडियंस हैं जिन्होंने इतना ध्यान से अपना वक्त निकाल के इसको सुना, उन सबकी खिदमत में एक छोटा सा शेर. इसकी आपके लिए इससे ज्यादा कुछ कहा नहीं जा सकता जो मैं कहने जा रहा हूँ. बहुत सिंपल चीज है. आपकी तारीफ में, आपकी तारीफ जितनी कम की जाए थोड़ी है. आपकी तारीफ में जब मैं सब कुछ कह गया, तब मेरे दिल ने कहा बाकी बहुत कुछ रह गया.
Thank you very much, sir. Now I invite Dr. Sukhwant Sidhu, part of our department, to formally thank you and all the audience.
Good afternoon, very good afternoon, sir. Rightly pointed out that in this COVID time we miss human experience, but I'll play this applaud for the wonderful and enriching talk that we have just witnessed. Your lectures, sir, are so planned, structured. It is just like unfolding a theorem. And today also, from traditional to modern to postmodern perspective, आप जैसे आपने समा बांधा, आपके लेक्चर्स पहले भी सुने, और ये जैसे दो लाइनें मैं भी कहता हूँ कि जादू है या तिलिस्म आपके अंदाजे बयां में. जादू है या तिलिस्म आपके अंदाजे बयां में कि जितना आपको सुनते हैं कैफियत बढ़ती जाती है. तो such is your aura and such is the way that you present, कि जब भी आपको सुनते हैं आपका अंदाज जुदा होता है. I have heard you many times, but I have to say this, कि जब भी आपको सुनते हैं आपका अंदाज जुदा होता है, जैसे चांद 100 बार भी निकले फिर भी नया होता है.
क्या बात है, क्या बहुत.
Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much for blessing us. On behalf of PG Department of Sociology, I would also like to thank our able principal ma'am, under whose guidance and motivation this lecture would be possible. She is, as sir said, an enabler and always supportive. We also express our heartfelt gratitude to all the faculty members from different institutions that have graced the occasion. A big thank you to all the students the backbone of the institution who have joined us. And thanks to our HOD Monica ma'am, Manoj sir, Komal, Veenath and Seema for supporting us. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Words are not enough to thank you and for the way in which you have conducted this session. Thank you so much, sir.
You are always welcome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, Monica.